Our dust collection system works exceptionally well. But when we first started to design this, Cooldeep and myself looked all over the world for some kind of a standardized size, and we couldn't find one. The box stores have vacuum, Shop Vac style vacs, even the built-in vacs like home systems. Everybody has a different size fitting. So we did find some that were similar and eventually settled on a 40 millimeter outside diameter. Now it will accommodate the Euro style like Festool, Mirka, Bosch hoses on the inside, but if you do that, we prefer that you use a hose clamp around it, because even though these are ultrasonically welded, there's a considerable amount of force against it, and the hose clamp would tend to contain that. Having the hose on the inside also narrows the opening so that when you are hogging out some, especially wet wood or pitchy wood in long strands, it can clog up right here at the face. Slow it down, take smaller bites and smaller dust or chips, and it'll pass through, of course, but it's a drawback. These things work really, really well, but the hose is pretty small and the opening even smaller. So going the other extreme, we looked at the larger hoses, 2.5-inch hoses and all, and found that they're just way too stiff. They tend to flex this way, but what we want is to be able to move side to side as we're flexing, and these didn't have nearly the flex that we would like. Also, the fittings became huge, and the adapter to the dust collector hood was cumbersome. So then we went to the box stores, and the box stores have these nice aftermarket hoses, and they're pretty flexible, but again, a real bulky fitting. Although this, we'll come back to this in a little bit, this is a great secondary hose, and I'll show you how we use a smaller hose than feeding into the larger one. Rockler makes a really nice adapter system. It's universal, but and it's very, very flexible, but we found it's really heavy, and it's difficult to support such that you get good airflow through it. So we had to rule that one out, unfortunately, because it has all the right fittings, and it's really a nice system for many other uses in my shop, but just not best suited to this one. And again, I found some others that were kind of heavy, though flexible, and those tended not to work as well. Then there's one that came really close. It was economical, but again, we found that the ability to twist wasn't there, and you don't want to have any unnecessary force on the pantograph as you're moving it. So I had to eliminate that one as well. Here's another aftermarket. This one is a rigid brand. This is an aftermarket, and it actually has the right fitting. But again, we tend not to like the larger hose right at the pantograph. We'd prefer to have one a little more supple and a little smaller. So we ended up with one from a company called High-Tech Duravent. Very, very nice hose. It has just the right amount of flex and rigidity. It keeps its shape so that we can have this nice sweeping bend, so the sawdust and chips will flow through it well. And the fittings were reasonable, although we couldn't get a male and a female. They only make male fittings for it. So I'll show you how we accommodate for this and some ideas that you might use for your own shop. So in my quest to find the perfect system, I took my adapter, the hose end piece, to the home center, and I stuck it in everything and stuck everything I could find in it to see what I could find that it would actually fit with, because of course it's not a standard PVC or galvanized or ABS pipe size. So what I found was this PVC piece that goes to the tail piece that comes out of the sink drain. And it's a small extension. It cost, I think, 89 cents. And it's very, very thin wall. And with that thin wall and its outside diameter just exactly right, it fits right into this piece and really doesn't impede the airflow at all. Because of the little lip that's inside, it sits flush. So this is actually a really good adapter. I cut the flange off, the female portion, so that I can go end to end and put two male pieces together very snugly and very nicely for less than $1. The other thing that worked was, the only other thing that worked actually, was a 2" by 1.5" thread on the inside, female pipe thread on the inside, and a glue joint on the outside. So it's 2" outside, 1.5" thread inside, and that actually works quite well. So if you wanted to couple into 2". The threads fit just perfectly, and they really won't be a problem with the vacuum. Even if you did have a little bit of loss around the circumference. So that worked actually quite well. So those are the two options. But then there's another option, which is shop built, and I'll show you how that works. A shop built method is just to use two pieces of wood that have the diameter cut to the right size for your hose end, and put those together. You can glue them together, screw them together. You could gasket it, but I actually think that it'll be fine without a gasket. In this case, I'm going to screw them together, and you might notice that one is 1.5 inches and the other one's 2.25. So I relieved the inside diameter of this one to allow a little better airflow, a little smoother path to the larger size. So the intent of this is to plug the end of my small hose that comes right off of the PantoRouter into this side, and plug my larger diameter hose into this side, into this side, and then screw those together and screw them onto the side of my PantoRouter stand, and that way I'll just be able to plug and unplug the larger hose when I want to transport, and if I want to use the vac for something else. And if I do want to change diameters, it's easy enough to separate this, and I've still got the small diameter hose fitting ready to go. So again, very, very simple. So mounting to the side of the PantoRouter stand, I can now just plug in my larger hose and keep this one in place. And you can see that I have really good range of motion. There's no resistance, and I've got a nice sweeping bend for the PantoRouter to expel the dust and shavings. So let's talk vacuums just a second. The one that I like the best is made by Festool, and yeah, I know they're really expensive, but this one, in combination with the Oneida Dust Deputy that's made to sit on top of the Festool vac, works really, really well. A couple of things I like about it. First of all, I will never have to change the bag in the Festool vacuum. This thing does such a good job of collecting the fines, the larger chips. All of it is right here in this bin, rather than ever going anything going into the bag itself. Another kind of cool thing about this is they've got this really ingenious little device here that takes vacuum directly off of the cleaner and applies vacuum between the bag and the case. So it holds the bag against the case, and it doesn't suck up into the bottom of the cyclone, which is kind of cool feature. Another nice feature is that you can plug directly into the Festool vac, and then it'll come on and off with the PantoRouter. And I always use the auxiliary switch with my PantoRouter. So when I hit the switch, It turns on the router motor, of course, and also the dust collection. So that combination works really well for me. I've got a rigid Shop Vac and it works great. It's just a little bit louder than this one. The reason that, incidentally, that I initially bought this was to take to trade shows where I needed something to be quiet. And the Euro style are much, much quieter than the larger Shop Vacs that we get at the home stores here in the US. So that's my basic setup. And as you can see, the nice free motion and big sweeping bends, and this is really critical to get good dust control. And I like the larger hose going out to the vacuum after it passes through my more flexible hose at the dust collection system.